One of the most important parts of your agency is having a strong, enticing offer. The problem is most people don't know how to go through and put one of these together. And if you do, it often takes you weeks or even months to validate this. I'm going to go through and show you how to do this in a relatively short period of time. So with this, I'm going to go through and map all of this out. To begin with, you have your service. So your service is going to be the thing that you are actually delivering. And in a lot of cases, you are going to be listing deliverables. So when I first started mine, I did YouTube for a very long time. When I started my agency, I then went through and started to offer video edits and thumbnails, in which then of course, people just saw me as, say, an editing agency, and that's the thing that I delivered. It did mean that when someone was even looking for edits and I said, hey, I'll edit your video, and then like we got them on a call, that I would say, hey, we're able to do this, 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 and this. This is the price. And they would go, but so-and-so is currently doing it for Y. Why are you offering X? And of course, theirs was cheaper. So then we got priced down. No joke, I was doing video edits when I first started for $15 and it would take me a couple hours. So it was one of those where I was earning like a couple hours. I was earning a couple dollars per hour, which wasn't fun. I thought that I had to go through that to prove myself in order to get it to work. No, I was just shit with business at the time. Still am in some areas, but with this, I know this. So we need to go through and change this. And the way in which we go through and do this is to go through and link it to an outcome, which everyone says. There's another problem that I had at this point. The problem that I had at this point was that I started to go through and offer an outcome, but what ended up happening, let's actually go through and do like a standard arrow. What ended up happening was I offered something that so many other people offer. This is called first level consciousness thinking, which is pretty much you come up with an idea and you think it's, the one, so you go and pick it up and run with it. But everyone else also has the exact same idea, and no one's ever taken the time to go deeper and think about what people really want in order to create something different, something that's going to stand out. And you've probably guessed by now, I said that I did YouTube, I said that I did edit and thumbnails, that my outcome was views, because of course it was. So I started to go and say that we'll be able to go through and get you more views. And it didn't really work because of course everyone else was doing the exact same thing. So what you need to take a look at is also the pain point. So the pain point in which your target audience is facing, because this is the most important part, or altogether, this is the most important part. So we need to understand what the outcome is of what people want to actually achieve. But if we can also have a gap between where they currently are with the pain point, we then put our service right in the middle. The problem is that with the outcome of views, when I was offering that, so was everyone else, so I didn't really stand out. Yes, there was a bit of a pain point in that not that many people were actually getting the views, but it wasn't something that was actually able for me to like stand out. So I had to go deeper to figure out why they wanted the views. What was the thing that they wanted? With some creators, it was to be able to go through and be known. They wanted to be famous. They wanted to go through and earn more money. Other sides of like business, which is the side that I fell on, they wanted lead gen, they wanted more clients, they wanted to lower the cost for acquisition. So those are the things that we started to go through and look at. The other side to this as well is that you do want to go through and match this to the audience in your service, meaning the outcome and pain point to the audience, quite easy. But if your service doesn't actually deliver upon this, then you're going to have a problem because people will buy into it because you've highlighted their outcome and like, yeah, you're going to solve it. And of course you start increasing your revenue, but then, a few weeks, few months go by and your service hasn't helped them with that outcome. It hasn't resolved that pain point. That's when you're going to start to churn, and then you're going to start to lose clients. And then maybe you flatline because it's going to be the case that the clients that you bring in is the exact same rate in which you churn clients, and of course you lose them. So we need to make sure that all of this does link together. If you can find an industry or a market where the outcome and the pain point is quite wide apart, for example, where I'm currently going through and helping agencies, I know that 70% of agencies, their main source of business is referrals. So that is an issue. People don't like that. I didn't like that when I was also stuck on referrals with my business when I first started. That's why I tried so hard and spent so much money in order to go through and learn the skill and be able to understand how to go through and build systems that would then, of course, bring in more leads and then figure out how to go through and put together offers that I can then go through and sell more. So that then means that we have an outcome for agencies where they want to be able to get more leads, get more clients, not depend on referrals. And that pain point is that they are currently stuck on referrals. And if they carry on at this rate, their business is going to die or they're just going to be priced out. So it becomes one where that gap, you can get it as wide as possible that your service can fit in. That's when you're able to actually go through and charge higher prices, and they're likely to go through and stick around for a bit longer as well, if it is something that is recurring, assuming that you can actually deliver upon that and it's all linked together. So these three become very, very important. From there, we do want to make sure that once we have this set, that we are no longer pitching ourselves as a commodity. So don't be a commodity, because the second that, and yet again, I'm highlighting all of this because I made all of these mistakes, I would start to go through and link it to the outcome, link it to the pain point, and then I would start to go through and say, oh, we're going to be going through and delivering X, Y, Z. We're going to be doing video edits. We're going to be going through and doing thumbnails. And yet again, I forgot that we should just be highlighting it to that outcome. So on that sales call, it's still the case that we would go through and say, we're going to help you get more leads, and we're going to do this so that you're not relying on referrals. That's all you would need to go through and say, not go through and highlight everything that you need to go through and do in order to achieve that, unless they're like, hey, specifically, what are we going to be going through and doing? Then, of course, you can start to list a few things as examples and then say something along the lines of, we'll continue to build this out as part of onboarding and strategy where we could be more precise. But we no longer want to go back to that commodity of being a video editor. This is how we can actually go through and set this. Services, outcome, pain point, then you're able to start going through and putting things together. That does make life a bit easier, that you can actually start to put together the wording of that offer because you have those words there. It's just now about how you go through and position it. So if outcome was to go through and be leads, pain point is no longer on referrals, you can get more specific. So this is where you can start to add more stuff onto this, which will make it more powerful. So you can be audience specific, in which then if you want to go through and target like coaches or consultants or SaaS or maybe like agency, like you have the choice of who it is that you want to go through and target. Best thing to do is figure out which one of these is going to be the best outcome for what type of audience and which ones are like there for like the pain points. Being audience specific for like SaaS, me talking about being able to get more qualified clients, well, most don't have clients, they mostly have users. And for the pain points, they're probably not on referrals. They might want to go through and set up something which is like affiliate. And of course, like they've got that in place to go through and get referrals anyway, like you could build it into their system. Most of the time, it's going to be to actually have a very good product so that they can keep people paying on an ongoing basis and keep those coming in. That's going to be slightly different compared to, offering clients or trying to go through and get leads. Of course, there are some sites where it's a bit different, just being general over on here. So you want to go through and make this audience specific. You can then also go through and start, my favorite thing at this level, like we're not going through and having to do anything like crazy, but I like to go through and offer a risk reversal. This is because when I started to go through and offer my YouTube services, when we transitioned from doing YouTube to actually going through and building full pipelines, and we were able to go through and handle everything for them, they just needed to record. We were doing a lot. We had quite high costs in terms of deliverables, and luckily we were able to charge higher prices, but it's still quite unnerving when you hear that you have to pay $5,000 plus per month. And with YouTube, even though we didn't strictly say this on the call unless they asked of how long this would go through and take, YouTube's not like you post a video and then suddenly you got leads coming in. Of course, it can happen, but you can control the inputs, you can't control the outputs. And that's going to be a lot for marketing agencies. If you're doing social media management, if you're doing any type of platform, if you're going to be doing like websites or anything like that, you can control the inputs. You can't necessarily always control the outputs. So you want a way in which you could go through and offer a risk reversal, whether that be if we don't get the build done, which is always a good one, we'll continue working until it's finished. So if you're saying, we'll build you a website, within 3 days. If it's not done within 3 days, we'll continue to go through and work for free until it's complete to your standards or something along those lines. You can offer a money back guarantee. One that I started to go through and do was win your money back, which was also pretty nice because then, of course, we're able to go through and control the situation of what those deliverables are, or what they need to go through and do. And chances are, if they do those things, they could win their money back, but they're probably getting the best results as well. So there's quite a few things that you could actually go through and do, but you just want a risk reversal here. So you're not saying that, hey, we're going to go through and just like, you just have to pay us and we just do absolutely everything. You can make this more enticing by doing it for free, heavily discounted, continue to work for free. There's different ways. It ultimately depends, again, on that service. I'm not going to go through every single way to go through and do this because there's quite a bit and I'll be here for hours, but it's something to go through and think about to actually go through and set. And then at that point, this is typically the area. I don't try to go through and do anything too crazy. I wouldn't recommend trying to do anything too crazy with your first offer either, because I'm someone myself who used to overthink all of this, and I wasted so much time trying to actually go through and set all of this that I was like, oh, I'm going to try and do like all of this very complex stuff because it's fancy, and then people, they're going to be so confused that they're going to just buy into absolutely everything. No, like they're just going to be confused that they're not going to buy, and then you're going to be confused because nothing makes sense. So I typically just go through, keep it at that to begin with. And then, of course, I can go through and start building other things as time goes on. But this means at this point, we can then go through and validate. In which, best thing to do is to go through your warm audience, go through existing clients if you've got any, go through your social media platforms, pull the lists of people there. I actually have a full breakdown, a full video, which will explain how to go through and get your first 5 clients, which it's still the same process that I end up using when I'm trying to go through and set a new offer. So we would go through, validate it with our warm audience. Then we'll start going through and bringing that into content. We start messaging those people who actually engage with that content. Then from there, we're starting to do cold outreach, in which, of course, we're pushing this offer. And they may also engage with content if they're searching our name. And of course, we're able to have multiple touch points. But we can do this relatively quickly within a matter of days, especially with your warm audience. That if they're like, all of this is shit, I'm not interested, you can actually go back to the drawing board and make a few changes. Chances are, though, as long as you're going through, you've got an outcome, you're linking it to solving a pain point, and the bigger that gap is, the better. You'll be an audience specific. You'll add in some sort of way in which you're taking the risk while still being able to make money. And then at that point, you will be able to go through and validate this. Then from there, you can actually build beyond this further. That is the full process. And as mentioned, if you did want to know how you can actually start signing clients with this, then I highly recommend watching this video right here. This video will give you the full breakdown. I hope you enjoy.